What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a weird, coincidental, very strange, spoiler-free review of a movie that just came out on Blu-ray for the first time from VCI Entertainment, and an unboxing of Horrors of the Black Museum with hypno-vista. Hypno-vista is a gimmick that they used in the beginning of this movie. It was a 15-minute long segment that was with a real hypnotist who tries to hypnotize the entire audience into being scared of this movie. I gotta say, it might have been kind of effective back then because even I was a little on the fence on whether or not I wanted to watch this whole hypnotism with all my focus. So I was kind of on my notes, kind of... Yeah, because I didn't know, there was reports that people did get hypnotized. So, hey, you never know. All right. I'm not a fucking hypnotist. Anyway, so this is a movie that was directed by Arthur Crabtree, who was a director for many different films, many crime and drama films, which he actually brought his expertise over from the crime and drama into a sort of hybrid movie that this is, and put him into a story that, actually kind of works. So he directed this in a way very much like a crime film, but there's elements of things like Jekyll and Hyde in it and other tropes in other horror movies that you've seen. This came out in Britain about 1959. I had never heard of it. This is my first time ever watching it, but there is a cult following for it because it did some pretty interesting things, including a pair of binoculars, which we'll talk about here shortly. But I'm going to get into what I think of this film and then the ingredients, which will be a little bit shorter because there's really not too much extra inside other than the extras on the disc. And I'll go over those with you after the review. So let's get into it. So yeah, what is Horrors of the Black Museum all about? It's a movie about a guy who's a journalist played by Michael Gough. Not Go, like Vincent van Gogh, by the way. I had to practice this. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Michael Gough was in this role as a journalist who is essentially working with the police a little too closely sometimes about a lot of murders that are happening in Britain. There's a string of murders by a murderer out there who is killing people in the night, kind of like Jack the Ripper, only not as many prostitutes and probably not as messy. This killer is a little bit more inventive by using weird instruments of death. In fact, these instruments of death probably would be found in a museum where they kind of document murders. Let's say like the Black Museum where this guy works. I wonder if he's the killer. Well, I won't say. They definitely push the finger on him a lot in this movie to say that he is, even though they really have no proof that he is. And boy, does Michael Gough's performance really shine here as he is sort of navigating a schmarmy kind of guy to the police. But let's face it, journalists who are always nosing around in police crime aren't really their favorite type of people to work for. So the police and him don't get along very much. And he kind of makes fun of them and laughs in their face, especially when they get something wrong. But yeah, these string of murders happen. There's a lot of really crazy instruments of terror that they use in the film that are different and unique. I was surprised to see that I was actually kind of refreshing in a way because this is such an old movie, but some of the tropes are still there. It's just older, and that's just something you're going to find because, art kind of bites off of art until, like movies bite off movies, etc., music, etc. But yeah, I was actually kind of interested in this. And one of the crazy things about this film that's coincidental, it stars Michael Gough, who I mentioned. He actually played a lot of characters in history, including Alfred Pennyworth. Yeah, that Alfred Pennyworth, the guy that was in all the Batman movies that Tim Burton directed. Yeah, let's just say if you can imagine him being a sort of schmarmy killer, Now, I also saw him in Trog, which we did on the podcast, which had Joan Crawford in it. But the funny thing about him is that I just recently watched the 3 specials by Doctor Who, because they brought David Tennant back as one of the 14th Doctor. Well, in the 3rd special, there is a nemesis or a villain that Doctor Who had fought in like the early days with another Doctor, another version of the Doctor, and it was the Toymaker, the Celestial Toymaker, and he returns in the 3rd special, played by Neil Patrick Harris. But you know who else played him back in the day? Michael Gough. So yeah, I thought that was really coincidental because I'm late to review this movie, and it's like I just watched those just to kind of unwind. So if I had been on time, I wouldn't have known that. So I thought that was interesting. But also on top of it, this also stars Shirley Ann Field, who was a starlet for this movie. And this is one of the films that got her kind of boosted into more films. She ended up, you know, hanging out with Frank Sinatra and Laurence Olivier and many other like famous people. She was quite the starlet, and she was very beautiful in this movie, and she was kind of an early scream queen for some people. So the sad thing about her is that she literally just passed away 2 days before the release of this Blu-ray here. This came out on December 12th, and yeah, so it's just a really weird coincidence. Anyway, back to the movie. I kind of like this movie. I'm not a real big fan of a lot of 50s and 60s films. I've seen a lot of them when I was younger, so I'm revisiting now to kind of like find what really kind of made other movies in the future what they are today. And this movie does have a pretty big cult following. You know, it's a movie that some people remembered specifically for the binoculars scene where a pair of spikes come out of the binoculars. There's other crazy instruments of terror in there, but you don't really know what's going on until the very end, in the 3rd act, when everything starts going crazy. They do kind of reveal the killer early on, and it does kind of confuse you as a viewer, which I thought was interesting. A really different choice. It had me guessing a little bit. I kind of enjoyed some of the different kills in it, and of course, Michael Gough's performance is really good in the film. You know, he bounces off of others. He's got like this swagger about him. It is a vintage film, so, you know, it's one of those films that you may or may not resonate with because the source material of this movie is just kind of old and dated for some. But I thought it was kind of fun, you know? I would probably give it like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. If you're a fan of this, this is definitely a must buy. There's a lot of history with this movie, and a lot of the people who worked on it did a lot of crazy things, including one of the things that I found really interesting, which was in the extras. They talk about how they promoted this film. Apparently, they put this movie out in 100 theaters at the time. One of the assistants or producers or somebody said, hey, bring the binoculars, but lose it at the airport. And so the writer of this movie, Herman Cohen, said, okay, yeah, I'll do that. He was in London at the time and flying back for the premiere in 100 different spots. And he lost the binoculars, at the airport. And sure enough, it got confiscated, and people were like, what the hell? What are spiked binoculars doing at the airport? And so it hit the news, and then he claimed, hey, it was mine. You know, I lost them, you know, and they thought it was like some sort of promotional thing. And we were not too happy about the situation, but he didn't get in trouble. And it kind of helped the movie out a lot too, because people were curious about the killer binoculars in this new movie. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool how they mixed the horror and the crime into this one, and then some sort of like, you know, Jekyll and Hyde thing that's a little weird in this movie. The finale is a just but kind of silly one in a way, because you kind of expect it in a way. One of the characters kind of shows their hand a little too soon. But overall, yeah, I still think it's like a 6.5 or a 7, you know, for its time. I've seen, you know, some 50s and 60s movies, and, you know, this definitely has that sort of 60s air about it a little bit more. This was in color too. I think there was like a regular version that was in black and white, but this was in color. Pretty cool stuff on the extras that we'll get into now. But if you want to pick it up and you don't mind the extras and you just want to get to it, MVD Entertainment sent this out to me. Big thank you so much for this, sending this out to me from VCI Entertainment, and thank you VCI Entertainment for sending this out. This looked beautiful on the screen. It really was crisp. I can't even imagine what it looked like before but it looked crisp. So let's get into it. So yeah, Horrors of the Black Museum doesn't really have a lot of extras like on the inside, like all the like stickers and stuff we get with some of these other things, but that's fine. That's kind of rare, and that's usually with weird boutique label stuff. But they do have a reversible cover here, which as you can see is a Hypno-Vista Horrors of the Black Museum. See, it says Killer Strikes Again. There is also multiple different covers as well. If you look here, you can see that this is one of the pictures of the girl holding her eyes with the spiked binoculars, the famous spiked binoculars there. Some of the extras that are on this include quite a few things here. Now, I watched quite a bit of them. I didn't do all the commentaries. Those are a little bit longer. You got to watch the whole movie to go through the commentaries. And sometimes I dip into those, but I like to save them for people who kind of want to get these things because I don't want to go over everything that's in the extras. The reversible artwork is by Robert Kelly. You got archival commentary by writer-producer Herman Cohen, which I talked about. And they also have a 2023 commentary by Robert Kelly, noted film historian and artist. We also have original U.S. Hypno-Vista opening. So it shows you that actual thing in the beginning. You can choose to watch it with that opening or just start the movie as the movie starts. Choose wisely. Anyway, so we also have your original U.S. Hypno-Vista opening featuring psychologist Emile Franchel, who was a real hypnotist. Obviously just a gimmicky thing, but they also have the archival phone interview with Herman Cohen, the tribute to producer Herman Cohen, original European theatrical and U.S. theatrical trailer. We got the photo gallery, the archival phone interview with Michael Goff, and a 2018 interview with Shirley Ann Field, which was heartbreaking to watch after I found out she had just recently passed away. But it is a wonderful kind of revisiting of her life and how she became famous and how she became a starlet. She tells of quite a few stories, including the one I mentioned about Frank Sinatra, which is really interesting. Laurence Olivier, and she's quite charming. Now, this is in full color. It is the aspect ratio of 2:35:1, and the audio is PCM, and they have the optional English subtitles on there. 93 minutes of a movie, but it went by pretty quick for me. You know, there is some longer talking parts in there, but it didn't actually do so bad. You know, it kind of flowed pretty well. Thank you so much to MVD Entertainment and, of course, VCI Entertainment. If you want to pick up a copy, there are links down below. Please check it out. If you're a fan of these kind of things and you've been waiting for this to get a Blu-ray treatment, well, here you are, buddy. This is for you for sure. And if you're not and you've never actually kind of checked out some of these things, it's really interesting to watch some of these older films and kind of get into the stuff that made the movies we see today. So don't let it scare you. At least give it a whirl. Maybe rent it online. This is a pretty fun release. I enjoy it. I'm glad to add it to my collection. Let me know what you think about them in the comments section down below. And if you've seen this film, are you a fan of it? Maybe you're old enough to have seen the film when it came out. But I would love to hear from you in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the boys.